the Medicaid ask for the next fiscal year outweighs all the entire increases of every other agency. And I want your listeners to understand that tomorrow, House Bill 138, a Medicaid reform bill, will be debated on the House floor. Now, I can't guarantee it. I've just been told that. I would call it a very high likelihood. I mean, they have a lot of bills, but I believe it will be debated tomorrow on the House floor. And it's very important, to the extent that your listeners want to weigh in, that they tell their legislators, please support House Bill 138 to reform Medicaid.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We had it on our watch list today to see if they would get to it. So yeah, we anticipated hopefully it'll pop up tomorrow. Can you give us the hard number here? What is the ask for next year if we were to leave Medicaid expansion alone? Do you know because originally of course the argument when it was Medicaid expansion was brought to Idaho through the reform for the ballot initiative, it was sold to us as a $300 million or $400 million program, and it's well over $1 billion. Isn't that right, Fred?
Yes. So I actually have the numbers right here.
Hey, look at that.
So the total ask for Medicaid, or I should say what was appropriated in 25 for all Medicaid, was $4.7 billion. The ask for 26 is 526. So call it 4.7 to about 5.3, nearly 600 million. It's 550-ish. The expansion Medicaid budget is now current year $1.12 billion, and the ask next year for 26 is 1.36 billion. So wow. Completely out of control. And to put that in perspective, and I did this in my presentation before the committee, the first full year of expansion, the original appropriation was $400 million in 21. 5 years later, it's now $1.36 billion. That's the ask. That's over a 200% increase in those 5 years.
That's incredible.
What's even more incredible is if you look at the enrollment numbers, and obviously enrollment in the future is a projection, right? We can only make an estimate. The enrollment surged during COVID, but it's now stabilized to pre-COVID levels. Yet the spending continues to go up. So the spending per enrollee has gone from, and these are actual costs, basically this is a reimbursement program, meaning that the state pays providers to cover Medicaid enrollees. That is more than doubled from about 6,600, and the projection next year is over 12,000. So it's an out of control program. It's the biggest budget driver. It has to be tackled, or we can't tackle spending.
Okay, and then let's just sum this up here. Where does that money come from? Now, obviously it comes from you and me, but literally, where does that money come from? And if we put the guardrails on it and we drop that down, where will that money go? Do we get it back? Where does it go?
Great question. So one of the ways they sold Medicaid expansion, or I should say the way the Obama administration proposed and presented it, was that if you give Medicaid to able-bodied childless adults, we will pay 100% of the cost, we being the feds. And most states said this is great. The Idaho legislature said no. Luke Mayville got a ballot initiative, and it was sold without really telling people the costs, how much they would explode, which I just spoke to. So it was initially funded 100% by the feds, and now it's 90% federal, 10% state money. So when you hear it's 1.1 billion, that means about 110 million state and roughly $1 billion federal. And a lot of people, even Republicans, think, well, this is free federal money, we should just take it.
And
that is one of the reasons that Medicaid is expanded to roughly 40 states, the expansion piece. I don't mean the basic. So your listeners need to understand, this bill does not impact the elderly, individuals with disabilities, children, pregnant women, able-bodied parents and caretakers, people on long-term care, children's health insurance. This bill only impacts childless, able-bodied adults. And what the bill says, it has a number of conditions reform conditions like work requirements and other things. If they're not met, then expansion is repealed. And the reason that's necessary is, as I told you, the cost went from 400 million to they're projected 1.36 billion in 5 years. And here's another thing that's interesting. We got some data from DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, and Musk put this on the website, on X, and we picked it off of X. Between Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid and other health programs, Medicaid has grown the most. It has grown from, and they have numbers from fiscal 19 to 24. Federal fiscal year is off, it's not the same fiscal year. It's offset a little to ours. So it's a 5-year equivalent, right? On real terms, inflation adjusted, Social Security is up 16.6%, Medicare 11.9%, Medicaid and related health programs up 30.7%. Wow. So it is a budget buster. So all this thing about, this is free federal money. No, folks, Medicaid is one of the reasons that the federal debt is over $36 trillion. Yep. And Idaho can be the first state that does major reform with House Bill 138. Yeah. It is a model piece of legislation. Like I said, virtually certain will be debated on the floor tomorrow. It really is must pass because it has grown so much. It threatens every other program, meaning roads and schools and colleges and things. To the extent you believe those should be funded, Medicaid will crowd out those programs. And again, this is just going after the able-bodied population, not the elderly, not the kids, not the disabled. This is just targeted toward childless, able-bodied adults.
Yeah. Don't fall for those scare tactics on your local news. It's absolutely preposterous. And also, Fred, last time I checked, I fill out two tax forms, one for the IRS and one for the state of Idaho. And the IRS is always the larger of the two that I'm sending my money to. So this whole idea that it's federal money, if I hear one more person say that, I think I might explode. It's our money.
Don't do that live.
Let's not. Okay, Fred, thank you so much for coming on. Have you written a piece on the Medicaid expansion yet? Can we direct anybody to some of the information that you have here?
Well, I've written a lot of pieces on it, and you can go to our website and just type in Medicaid in the search bar. So if you go to the idahofreedom.org, and there'll be a search bar, and type in the word Medicaid. You'll see a lot of articles that we've written that explain this in detail. But again, the bill is House Bill 138, and your legislators will be debating and voting tomorrow. This is one of the most significant and important piece of legislation for conservatives to vote on and vote for.
And vote for. Yes, great. All right, Fred. Well, thank you so much, everybody. IdahoFreedom.org. Do what Fred says. Do what Fred says. We'll see you next time, Fred. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right.